now to Zia Yusuf, who's Head of Policy at Reform. Mr Yusuf, good morning.
Good morning.
It's just plain forward wrong and stupid what Kevin Hollinrake has done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And look, I'd also say, in addition to the comments you've just made, which I would agree with, the Tories have spent now the entire time since the general election saying that they've changed, and we should look past the fact that they basically ran an open borders experiment in this country for 14 years. Look past the fact that they let in north of 100,000 illegal migrants, never left the ECHR, essentially governed like globalists. And now you have, as you said, the chairman of the party, not an indistinguished backbencher. The chairman of the party has just equated reform, and therefore people who support reform, the millions of people across the country, almost a third of the country, to Nazis. And that means that they've basically joined parties like the Green Party. Zach Polanski frequently refers to us as fascists. And one of the really dangerous things about this is that I speak to too many reform activists. I speak to too many reform candidates and volunteers who are threatened and indeed sometimes sadly attacked because they have been whipped up by this sort of appalling language. And it was not that long ago, of course, that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, in no small part because of extremely dangerous rhetoric. I mean, he was also labeled with these sort of slurs. It's deeply offensive, by the way, to the untold millions whose lives were destroyed by the Nazis. So I'm sorry, if you thought it was a joke, it's certainly not funny. And the fact that he took it down and then put it back up again, and it remains there, tells you everything you need to know about the fact that this is now clearly the official and endorsed view of the Tory party.
It's also politically illiterate, because if he really understood what the Nazis stood for, I mean, the Nazis scapegoated Jews, that's now a policy of the far left in this country, that the Nazis pretty much believed in open borders. They certainly didn't respect national sovereignty. Again, not a policy of national conservatives like Reform. Do you think our politicians actually need some training in history?
I think, Miriam, I think it's more just down to the fact that he's all out of ideas. And I think the Tory party are all out of ideas. I think these are the last acts of desperation. I wouldn't give them too much credit into thinking that this is some sort of, this was posted on a late Sunday evening. Who knows, maybe he'd had one too many beverages, for all we know. But again, the fact that he not only deleted it, he then put it back up there and it remains there. And nobody else in the Conservative Party, from the shadow cabinet or Kemi herself, has come out to condemn this. And again, they're not just condemning Nigel or myself or any of the Reform MPs. They're condemning a third of the country. And you speak of politically illiterate. I can't imagine how the Tory party have looked at Keir Starmer's strategy of calling us racist and calling Nigel racist and seen that to be a successful strategy. The Tories are floundering, and the fact that they think the way to win back voters who have fled the Tory party to Reform is by calling them Nazis is beyond me.
What's the least that Kevin Hollinrake should do, Zia Yusuf? Should he apologise? I mean, apart from take it down, but does he need to apologise to not just the leader of the party, but to all of Reform Party members?
I think if he had a shred of shame, that's exactly what he would do, yes. And
if he doesn't?
Well, that's a matter for the Tory party. I mean, we at Reform will continue doing what we're doing. And if it's now the Tories, Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, 4 of the top 5 parties in the country have now labelled Reform as either fascist or racist or Nazis. And I'm afraid what that's doing is spitting in the faces of people watching this programme. That's exactly what the Tory party are doing yet again, insulting their intelligence. And the answer is no, we're none of those things. We simply want secure borders. We want immigration law to be upheld. We want an end to mass immigration. We want people who are here in this country illegally to be deported. That isn't racist. It isn't Nazi. It isn't fascist. It's simply good common sense. And that's what Nigel provides.
No, I agree that nobody intelligent could possibly draw any link between Reform Party policies and Nazism. But nevertheless, there are people, particularly on the online right, who might call themselves neo-Nazis or be attracted to Nazi propaganda. We know that some of those people do try to infiltrate mainstream political parties on left and right. What is Reform doing to make sure that people like that are not able to join and not able to have any influence?
Well, look, as you've said, you get sometimes every political party will have a fringe, as it were. And, I was chairman when we set up a vetting process, which, while not perfect, no vetting process can be perfect, to be clear. I think it's done a pretty darned good job. We're very proud of fielding more candidates, of course, on May the 1st this year than any of the other parties. The first time, I think, in about a century that has happened. And again, I think it's unreasonable to try to besmirch, the millions of people in this country who, remember, Miriam, people voted for less immigration in time after time after time after time. The Brexit vote and referendum, 4 consecutive Tory manifestos. As you know, the Tories promised to bring net immigration down to the tens of thousands and left with that number touching 1 million. So, look, we can talk about fringe and far right all we want. The reality is that's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of politics in this country, almost as to be basically irrelevant. And that's not obviously what reform is. And again, reform is now polling. Some polls put us at more than twice the support level of the Tories, which is why calling these people Nazis simply for saying that this should be a country that actually upholds immigration law and doesn't want to see the country face untrammeled mass immigration anymore is a really appalling thing to say.
You're going to speak later on today to the CBI conference, the Confederation of British Industry, Mr. Yusuf. Just a few weeks ago, you junked a lot of your economic policies, such as taking everybody out of taxation until they earn £20,000. What is your message to the CBI today to try to show the business community that reform can be taken seriously with the economy?
Yeah, well, look, we will be, if the British public choose to elect a Reform majority and Nigel as our Prime Minister, we will be the most pro-business government of our lifetimes. And, most of the leadership at Reform have built successful careers in the private sector. We've built businesses. We know what that's like. And so my message is this. Look, the country is, of course, in a very difficult financial situation, in no small part because of 14 years of Tory mismanagement, and now Rachel Reeves pouring gasoline on that. There's almost £3 trillion of national debt, so we have to be realistic. But our priorities will be, number one, we've got to get energy costs down, and that will be the number one priority of a Reform Energy Secretary. It is to reduce energy costs and make energy as abundant and cheap in this country as possible. Number two, cut red tape and reduce the overburdensome regulation. Make the most of the freedoms that Brexit has actually given us. Unleash the power of and lean into our strengths like the financial services sector, new age manufacturing, to the degree anyone can manufacture anything in this country. I'm amazed any company manages to manufacture things given where energy prices are. And then, of course, make crystal clear that if you're a wealth creator, a job creator, you are welcome in the United Kingdom.
Zia Yusuf, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate you coming on the show. And we should say that we did reach out to the Conservative Party and Kevin Hollinrake. We are yet to hear back.
Well, they haven't said anything, and they should.
Indeed.
It's not acceptable. I mean, they're a big party. You can't just bury your head in the sand. I mean, it's a mistake, and they should admit it, and it's an offensive mistake.
I think the reposting is what's so extraordinary.
Well, extraordinary. If you got it wrong, we've all occasionally put something out that, oh, God, I didn't mean to say that. And you can take it down.
Delete. And then at least you show that you understand that you made a mistake.
Yeah.
Doubling down, I think.
And the irony is, I think Kevin Hollinrake is one of the more sure-footed of the Conservative.
Sensible, level-headed normally.
Got that wrong.
Anyway, we shall see. We await a reasonable explanation.
Now, still